Today's topic comes from this year's World Day of Prayer theme, which was Peace in the Midst. As usual, it's a perfectly relevant theme that was chosen many, many months ago. Peace in the midst. But they chose that beginning of spring, if not before then, right? Many, many months ago. And World Day of Prayer is something celebrated at Unity Centers all around the world, especially at Unity Village, of course. There's a big celebration, but Unity Centers all around the world, we're celebrating World Day of Prayer, and some are having 24-hour vigils there in our sanctuary. I look forward to us someday having the people power to pull that off. That would be amazing. It's a really great experience. But I think sometimes that we think that peace is not an attainable dream. It's a nice idea, something hippies and religious folks talk about. But I'm both of those things. Isn't that great? So guess what? I'm going to talk about it. I'm kind of a wannabe. I'm sort of in the middle. Anyway, that's another topic of being a hippie. So there's a story from Mark that you've probably heard before, because it's sort of one of Jesus's greatest hits. And you know what I know, Jesus has greatest hits. And this is how it reads. On the same day when evening had come, he said to them, "Let us cross over to the other side." Now, when they had left the multitude, they took him along in the boat as he was, and other little boats were also with him. And a great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat so that it was already filling. But he was in the stern, asleep on a pillow. And they woke him and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we're perishing?" They probably sounded more panicked than that. Then he arose and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. But he said to them, "Why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith?" And they feared exceedingly and said to one another, "Who is this that can even the wind and the sea obey him?" It's one of Jesus' greatest hits, right? You all knew that story already, right? However, usually what people talk about with a story is either how powerful Jesus was to calm the storm, right? That's what people like to talk about. Or they like to talk about how he had enough faith, how the disciples were being wusses, and they didn't understand that they needed more power or more faith to calm the storm. But what if the story is really about Jesus napping? What if the story is about how he didn't freak out when there was a storm coming or happening? How about if the story's about how he didn't freak out when he was awakened and he saw that something needed to happen because those about him were having some problems, and he just did what he needed to do to get back to his nap? Have you ever had that feeling? I just need to do what I need to do so I can get back to my nap. We've all had these moments of the storms happening and knowing that the most effective thing that we can do is to not panic, to be peace in the midst, to stay focused on what needs to happen next. Now, in my former profession, I was a stage manager, and there would be these moments when a prop was missing or someone missed a cue, and there would be time later to figure out why that happened or how to keep that from happening again. But in the moment, the most important thing to do is to make a decision about what to do next to resolve the situation. And as a stage manager, your job is to make the decision. For better or for worse, you just make the decision and you move on. And if you're a good stage manager, you've already thought about what you would do, so you already know. But you don't have time to be like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe they did that thing." That's for later. So when I was interning at a theater in Chicago right after I got out of school, it was Christmas Carol was the play, and we were in previews, so there was an audience, but it was like school kids, I think, that day. And I was up in the observation booth doing line notes, because there's a lot of line notes to be taken. That was a large cast. And there was the point where the Ghost of Christmas Past has just come to Scrooge, and they're going to, so they're on a raised a platform, probably as tall as this room. They're on this raised platform, and what's supposed to happen is that Scrooge and the ghost both are in harnesses, and what's supposed to happen is they get risen up to fly, right? Because they're supposed to fly, and the stage pulls back from underneath them, and then they fly as the set's being changed, and then they land and they go about their business. That's what's supposed to happen. What happened was that they raised Scrooge and the ghost up a little bit. Now, see, Scrooge, they can only make him go up and down, and the ghost, they can go back and forth and up and down. So they just move the ghost back and forth, and they both move, right? Well, the problem was the up and down part for Scrooge stopped working. So the ghost lands, and there's Scrooge swinging back and forth 10 feet from the ground, maybe more. He was probably maybe 15, like a pendulum. As it was pretty fun. I mean, I see it so vividly in my mind, even though it happened quite a few years ago. And there was, and I could hear this, what's happening with the crew and this, the stage manager and everything. And they're like, "Is it working? No, it's not working." Like they're just like trying to figure out what to. And so then you hear the stage manager's voice come over, like the voice of God, over the whole auditorium, as the curtains are closing. "We'll be back in a moment. Please stay calm and stay in your seats while we get Scrooge down to the ground." And so they closed the curtains, and they pulled out a ladder, unhooked Scrooge, he climbed down the ladder, everything went back to it, just like nothing ever happened. And of course, this is a very professional actor, so it was just like nothing ever happened, Because in the midst of all of that, you don't have time to figure out, "Oh my gosh, it was your fault." Don't have time for that. Just need to get Scrooge down from swinging like a pendulum before he gets seasick, right? So you probably already practice this skill of being peace in the midst. If you've ever worked in customer service or been around a kid or an adult, having a moment, we'll call it a moment. Some people would call it a temper tantrum. You may have practiced being peace in the midst of chaos. But how do we practice those peacemaking skills? Because we need to both train and put them into action. Like an athlete, they'll work out in the gym and do things that are not part of what they're actually an athlete for, because they need to continue to build those muscles and make their body strong, and then they actually go and practice the thing that they're competing in, right? So the single best tool for being able to stay calm and peaceful in stressful situations, can you guess what I'm going to say? Come on. She knows, yeah. Meditation, yeah, meditation. Having a consistent meditation practice. That's the best way to keep yourself calm in the situation. And you don't have to do it perfectly. I think sometimes we pretend that, or think that we have to do meditation perfectly for it to be good enough, and that's, if you sat down at the piano and you hadn't played in a while, you wouldn't expect it to be perfect. Sort of the same thing with meditation. So maybe the goal is to just do it a minute more than you're currently doing it. So if you're doing it 1 minute, woohoo! Surely you can find a minute. And if you're doing it 3 minutes, aim for 4 or even 5, because we like to round to fives. We don't like those weird numbers in between 0 and 5. It's a weird thing that we do. And so this gives us a foundation. This is like, that's the meditation is like the working out in the gym part, just getting our body strong. And this So when you respond to the things happening in your life, you can have more peace and calmness. And maybe you even use this affirmation that they created for World Day of Prayer, which is, I am peace in the midst of all matters. I am peace in the midst of all matters. That applies to a lot. And if you are recognizing that you need to call forth peace in a situation, it happens. You may also want to consider one of the 12 powers. I love the 12 powers. As you may recall, or maybe you don't know, the 12 powers are inherent abilities that are who you are, and they're just another way for us to express our God self. And we give it separate names because sometimes it's easier to focus on one attribute than trying to do it all at once. And so they're just different slices of the same pie. But when we look through the prism of the 12 powers, it sort of gives us these things to focus on. And so when we think about, I like it because when we're like, okay, I'm in a situation, yes, this situation needs more peace, and I need more understanding. Or I need more enthusiasm. I know, need more enthusiasm. But I need more faith. And so the 12 powers can be kind of like those, let me fill in the blank. What do I need more of? Or what do I need to activate to do better in this situation? So I always thought it was really great. And so let me sidetrack. Remember, some of you may remember, we did those great books by Linda Martella-Whitsitt. She's now the director of Silent Unity. And 12 powers she's really into the 12 powers, so because now she's there, they created these great affirmations that go along with the 12 powers that went along with peace in the midst. So I thought we would say them together, kind of in a responsive reading type of way. And if you'd like your own copy, there are copies out on the welcome table out there, so you can practice them yourself, because I think that when we practice our affirmations, sometimes it helps us have something ready to go when we're not feeling that ability to activate peace habitually. If maybe we're feeling a little challenged to activate peace in a situation. Sometimes if we have an affirmation ready to go, that can get us going. So I'll read the top part, and then we'll all read the second part together. The universe is calling for divine faith. I give thanks for faith, the power of positive expectation in the minds of creative dreamers, prayer leaders, and planners. Faith, our ability to see and know what is true. Imagination. The universe is calling for divine imagination. I give thanks that divine imagination, the creative power, brings forth a world more beautiful, harmonious, prosperous, and healthy. Divine imagination, our ability to see and know. Understanding. The universe is calling for divine understanding. I give thanks that divine understanding is moving through the hearts of world leaders as they seek peaceful solutions to world concerns. The universe is calling for divine will. I give thanks that common people display uncommon commitment to reliving the suffering of others in our neighborhoods, communities, and countries. I think that was actually supposed to be relieving, but relieving the suffering, that would make more sense, right? Divine zeal. The universe is calling for divine zeal. I give thanks that teachers everywhere employ divine zeal, the power of devotion to education and empower people of all ages. You can tell I made a mistake when I typed that last night. The universe is calling for divine power. I give thanks that divine power, self-mastery, is being expressed as more individuals in the world than ever before are taking responsibility for the quality of their lives. So sometimes people hear power and they think power. Divine power, also known as self-mastery. If you think of it as self-mastery, it doesn't seem quite so an awkward word, but it's the power to call forth and know our take responsibility to call forth what we desire. Also, your voice is part of your power center. Divine love. The universe is calling for divine love. I give thanks that divine love, the harmonizing power, allows all the people to see the divine in all others. In fact, to see no other, but only one. Love is the power that harmonizes the universe to know that we are all one energy. And love is much more than an emotion that we feel for the people that we care about, or for our puppies, or a work of art or whatever. Love is that knowing of our oneness. The universe is calling for divine wisdom. I give thanks that the activity of divine wisdom, the discerning power, expresses at the border between all countries so that all people may be free to pursue peaceful living. I invite you to take that piece of paper, and if you only say one affirmation, say this one. Our world needs this today and tomorrow, and hopefully maybe it won't forever. But until then, this affirmation. The universe is calling for divine order. I give thanks for divine order, the power of adjustment, expressed as support for restoration of countries and their people ravaged by violence. The universe is calling for divine strength. I give thanks that divine strength, the power of courage and tenacity, is the driving force behind grassroots initiatives to improve conditions for the most vulnerable among us. I promise we're almost done. The universe is calling for divine release. I give thanks that the divine power of release is expressing as forgiveness in healing relationships between people and among nations. You could probably read that one every day too. All of them, really, just all of them would be good. The universe is calling for divine life. I give thanks for divine life, the power of vitality expressed by rescue personnel, medical providers, and caregivers as they offer safety, shelter, and sustenance to young and old in need. Thank you for joining me, those affirmations. I know I've never done anything like that before, but I really wanted to share those with you all. And thank you for joining me in calling forth more peace in our world. May these words resonate with you, and that you take those moments to practice being peace in our quiet moments when it's easy to exercise that muscle of being peace in the midst, so that when we are called up higher to be peace in the midst of all situations, we are able to respond in that way that we wish we would like to be. And so I know that each of you is a peacemaker. So you are peace in the midst of all matters.